Hi, everybody. Thanks for tuning in tonight. We're going to be discussing three different things today. We're going to talk about the benefits of getting involved on your campus, the importance of the important student resources that you can find on your campus, and then we're going to talk about do's and don'ts of dorm life. This presentation is just a general overview of a college life and transitioning from high school to college. It's not focused on any kind of specific university. But before we get started, we're going to take a minute to introduce ourselves. My name is Liz. I graduated from Northern Kentucky University in 2018 with a bachelor's degree in organizational leadership with a focus on sports business. And then when I was an undergrad, I was involved with the men's basketball team as a student manager. And then I was also the vice president for the sports business club. So Megan or Elizabeth, do you want to go?
Hi, everybody. My name is Elizabeth Bolton. I was a student at WKU from 2012 to 2016. I majored in sociology, and I was involved in Greek life for all 4 years of undergraduate. I was also in several clubs that were related to my sociology major and criminology minor, and I was in several academic honor societies. So that was kind of what I was involved in while I was a student.
Hi, everyone. My name is Megan Chapman. I graduated from Western with a bachelor's in health science and a concentration of gerontology with a long-term care administration certificate. That was back in 2014. And I'm, of course, in this program, and I'll finish up in December. During my undergraduate time, I wasn't as involved as I wish I would have been, but I was into intramurals of all kinds. So yeah, that's about me.
Okay, well, I think I am presenting first, so I'm going to go ahead and get started. I'm sorry for the glare coming in the window. Let me just adjust a little bit. There we go. Okay, so I'm going to share my screen with you all. If you could just give me a thumbs up when you can see it, I would appreciate that. Awesome. Okay. So I am going to start us off by talking about getting involved on your college's campus, which is definitely something that I'm really passionate about. So I'm super excited to get to speak about that a little bit today. So before I start talking about why you should get involved, I want to first start off by acknowledging that this upcoming school year is definitely going to look different than previous years. There might be fewer options for getting involved next semester, or the ways you get involved might look a little bit different with the virus and everything. So I just want to encourage you guys, this isn't going to be the way it is forever. Take advantage of the opportunities that you do have right now, and you can always be planning for the opportunities you'll have in the future when things get back to normal. In the meantime, I would definitely encourage you to check out your university's COVID plan on their website and check it frequently, because things can change really quickly, just so you have a better idea about what your options are going to be once you get to school. All right, so the benefits of getting involved on campus. First of all, it's a great opportunity to learn new skills and to develop the skills that you already have. So leadership, teamwork, communication, prioritization are all skills related to being involved in a campus organization. When you get involved with organizations on your campus, you have opportunities that you probably wouldn't have had otherwise just from classroom participation. You can potentially manage money, you can work with community organizations, you can plan campus events, and those are all really valuable skills that are going to be useful throughout your life in whatever career field you choose to enter. Another benefit is that you can build and demonstrate time management skills. So if you're anything like me, time management is going to be one of those skills that you are constantly working to develop. It is a constant work in progress for me. But your undergraduate college days are the perfect time to really start working on this skill and setting up a solid foundation. It's a real adjustment to go from high school to college. There won't be the exact same class schedule every single day of the week. You know, your work schedule might change to kind of keep up with the changing class schedule. And there won't be anybody reminding you to do your homework before you go to bed. So participating in campus life might seem like just one more thing to add to your plate, but it's a really good way to show that you have the ability to manage your time effectively and responsibly. And being a part of these organizations, they kind of help you to manage your time in and of itself, because they might have mandatory study hours, they might have mandatory community service hours. A lot of campus organizations really prioritize a certain GPA in order to stay involved, which is a great motivator. So being involved is really a way to kind of help prioritize your academic and personal development while still getting to participate in fun events and work towards a common goal with your campus group. All right, next I want to talk about teamwork and collaboration. So when you're part of a group of students with a common goal or interest, collaboration and teamwork are naturally going to follow. When you're working to plan events or creating materials or delegating tasks, etc., like all of these are valuable skills that are going to aid you in your future career. All those are things that your future employers are going to expect. Like if you don't learn how to work with a team in college, that can definitely become an issue later when you're employed or when you go to graduate school or anything. If anything, I would say that teamwork becomes even more important in later life. So getting a good foundation as an undergraduate is super important. But whether you're a leader of a group or you're in a support position or you're a brand new member, you're working to help a group achieve its objectives through collaboration and teamwork. And like I said, that's going to apply directly to your life later on. Kind of going along with that are friendships and networking opportunities. So in my opinion, one of the best things to come from getting involved on campus is making friends. And it sounds cheesy, but it can be scary to leave your group of friends from high school behind. But being in a group of like-minded peers is a really great way to make lasting friendships in college. So whether you're an introvert or an extrovert, when you get involved on campus, you're going to find yourself spending time with a group of people and you're all working towards a common goal or share a common interest. And friendships are going to develop organically from that. And you're going to build yourself a support system on campus. And the relationships that you develop in college are really some of the most important aspects of your college experience. One meaningful friendship or relationship can really help you feel more connected to your university. And the more connected you feel, the more likely you are to finish your degree. So it's super important. All right, so a couple more things here. Getting involved on campus really does help to build your self-confidence. All of the skills that we've been talking about that you're going to acquire, all those come together to really kind of prove that you can accomplish important things. Balancing a class schedule, a work schedule, and your personal life, all while staying involved, show that you can really accomplish anything. And undertaking these challenges and reaching your goals are all going to help you feel more confident in yourself and in your abilities as a professional. All right, almost done here, but getting involved on campus is enjoyable. You make friends, you make memories, you get to help your campus, you get to help your community, and it really does just break up the monotony of classes and work and studying, and it keeps your life interesting and it gives you things to look forward to. And the last benefit I want to talk about is that it can make you more marketable to future employers. One of the greatest benefits of getting involved is that it increases your marketability. So I know personally, when I went in for job interviews after graduating, it was super, super helpful to be able to talk about leadership positions I'd held, events I'd planned, the way I was able to balance my schedule, the opportunities for teamwork. All of those were really helpful during the interview process because all of those skills translate to truly any job field. And it really proves that you have what it takes to get the job done. All right, so before I go on to talking about what ways you can get involved on campus, does anybody have any questions about the benefits to getting involved? I think everybody is muted right now, but if you have any questions, you can send them in the chat function and Liz or Megan can read those off to me. I'll just give that one more second just to make sure. And if you have a question during the presentation, you can also send that using the chat function, and there'll be another opportunity for questions in a moment. Okay, so if I'm good, I'm gonna move on. Yes.
Elizabeth, this is Aaron. How you doing?
I'm good, thank you.
Well, yeah, I don't, there may be some folks here that don't know me, but I teach in the program, student affairs program, whatever. I was wondering, what advice would you have for folks? Let's say that you end up, I don't know, maybe you're a roommate and you're a conservative and they're a liberal. How would you go about turning that into a positive experience?
Okay. I would say that it would be a really cool idea maybe to look into some of the clubs on your campus that emphasize, either like a liberal orientation or a conservative orientation, and maybe like attend those meetings together, kind of encourage like helpful debate, and can kind of help the two of you learn the other person's perspective. Otherwise, as far as like living with somebody goes, you really just have to work on that compatibility. It's like any other relationship or friendship, like you guys aren't going to agree on everything. You just really have to figure out what you need from the other person in order to live together successfully.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's absolutely right. What my son just graduated this past May. He was a psychology major, and he got involved in the philosophy club, which was kind of interesting. I went to a couple of their meetings, and it was kind of a neutral place to come and talk about all of those issues. So there weren't people that had a particular orientation. They were just trying to really understand the other person's point of view and that kind of thing. I think one of the things you have to do is also establish some ground rules occasionally, so that, if you are going to be living with folks that aren't necessarily sharing your particular convictions or beliefs or that kind of thing, sometimes you just have to sit down and say, okay, we're going to avoid certain topics, or we're not going to talk about certain things, or when we do talk about them, we're going to have some ground rules that we're going to agree to adhere to, so that the focus stays on the issue and not it doesn't devolve into personalities and name calling and all that kind of stuff too. I was one of those folks that I learned a great deal when I got to college, because I got exposed to people that I would never been exposed to in positions, and being raised in rural West Tennessee, it just really opened my eyes to a lot of things. And I asked a lot of questions and had a lot of conversations. But there were some folks that, as you said earlier, found it a little bit threatening. It's difficult if you've been around people your whole life that told you, that kind of shared your worldview and how you felt about things, and then suddenly you're around people that didn't have those shared experiences when you were growing up, and it can be threatening for a lot of folks. So I think one of the things we have to do, and part of our orientation, is make sure people know simple things like how to have a civil conversation. So I think it's a valid point that you're making, very much.
Definitely. And Liz is going to talk a little bit more about like dorm living as well. So we might have just stolen a few of her talking points, but definitely I think that like at the end of the day, you just kind of have to have honest conversations with people, but also realize that college is a chance to expand your mind and learn new things. So to kind of respect other people's opinions as long as they're presenting them in a respectful manner. All right, any other questions? Awesome. Okay, so I am going to move on to my next topic, which is how to get involved on campus. So since we've talked about the reasons, we've talked about the benefits you should get involved, let's talk about what your options might be. And like Liz mentioned earlier, every college campus is going to be a little bit different. They're going to offer different things, but we're going to talk about just some of the general things that most campuses are going to offer. So first, I want to talk about Greek life. As I mentioned before, Greek life was a big part of my undergraduate college experience. So I'm very passionate and a big advocate for Greek life. There are different kinds of Greek letter organizations, which are commonly called sororities and fraternities. At WKU alone, I know there are Panhellenic sororities, which are social sororities for women. There is the Intrafraternity Council, which are social fraternities for men. There are MPHC fraternities and sororities, which are traditionally African American organizations. There are community service sororities, there's an agricultural sorority, business fraternity, there are honor societies, and there's probably more that I'm missing and not able to think of right now. But there really is something for pretty much everyone, in my opinion. But Greek life is a great way to make long-lasting friends and to gain valuable leadership skills. Many Greek organizations participate in things like homecoming, philanthropy weeks, brotherhood and sisterhood events. And so if you're interested in Greek life, I think it would be a good idea to start looking into that now, because most organizations will do their recruitment process at the very beginning of next semester. So since that's kind of sneaking up on us, it would definitely be a good idea to start looking into that sooner rather than later, just so you don't miss any deadlines. And so you can get a better look at how the Greek organizations at your university are going to be conducting their recruitment this year. I think WKU I saw just went to a virtual recruitment process. And I'm not sure if that's going to be the norm for other universities or not, but definitely be a good idea to look into that sooner rather than later. And while we're on the topic of Greek life and student organizations in general, I think it's important to mention hazing, because hazing can happen in any student group. It's not limited to Greek life. I know it takes place, sports teams, clubs, really anything. But I know it's most commonly associated with Greek life. So I think now is a good time to talk about it. I'll just note that Kentucky does have anti-hazing laws, and virtually every university is going to have anti-hazing policies. And additionally, I think there's only 3 states in the entire country who don't have an anti-hazing law. So most states are going to have a law to combat that. And your university should be talking to you about hazing, about what is expected from the organizations at their university. So pay attention to that, and then educate yourself just so you know for sure, like what is okay, what's not okay, and that way you can be an advocate for yourself and protect yourself. All right, so another way you can get involved on campus, in addition to Greek life, is the Student Government Association. I think it's a really cool way to get involved on your campus and to advocate for meaningful change. Students at all levels, freshman through senior, can participate in SGA and work to represent the interests of your fellow students. If you're someone who's interested in the political process or government or social causes, SGA could be a really good fit for you. SGA meets regularly to discuss campus issues and search for solutions and improvements. Another way to get involved is through religious organizations. Most universities are going to have at least one, but probably multiple religious organizations that you can become involved with. Some students struggle to stay connected to their faith after coming to college. So I think getting involved with a group of people who share your religious or spiritual convictions is a really great way to stay involved with your religion or faith throughout college. These organizations are going to provide opportunities for worship, fellowship, service, and are also going to provide leadership opportunities as well. And then a lot of them are going to also meet pretty regularly, have regular meetings, like in addition to kind of special events that they'll put on. Another way to get involved is through intramural sports. I think if you're someone who really enjoyed playing sports in high school, or really just somebody who likes to stay active or wants to be more active, intramural sports could be a really great option for you. There's a huge variety of sports teams that you can be a part of, and you can even get a group of your friends together and start your own team, or you can just go out solo and join a team. There's lots of different options, and there's even some like solo sports that you can participate in. All right, and then just generally clubs. So most colleges and universities are going to offer a pretty wide variety of clubs, like really too much for me to talk about individually. But just know there are clubs that are going to be related to your major. There's clubs for hobbies. There's clubs for special interests. As Dr. Huey mentioned earlier, like a philosophy club, like there's truly like a little bit of everything. I know there's some like video gaming clubs, like really any interest you have, you're probably going to find a club for it. And the cool thing about clubs is that even if you don't find a club that kind of fits your interests, you always have the options to start your own. All right, so to wrap up my section, I just want to talk to you really quickly about where you can find more information about how to get involved on your campus specifically. I would start with trying to check out your school's webpage and look for the Student Activities Office. Will be a great place to start. They'll probably have a webpage that has more information about what's offered, more information about how to get involved, etc. And then your new student orientation is also a great place to get more information. If you're attending WKU master plan, you'll have a leader, and that person would be great to ask. And you can also just ask the other students that you're meeting, ask, other people who have gone to your university, how they got involved on campus, or if there's anything that they wish they would have gotten involved with. And don't be afraid to ask questions about it. All right, so wrapping things up, do we have any more questions? All right, hang on. I'm gonna try to pause the screen sharing and pass that on. Oh, I see we have a chat. What are some ways that you guys were involved as students? Is there anything you didn't do that you wish you would have? Well, I can start off by answering that, and then I can pass it over to Megan and Liz to answer. Like I said, was really involved with Greek life, and Greek life brought me several other opportunities as well to kind of get involved, not just with my sorority, but with the Greek system as a whole. So that brought a lot of really cool leadership opportunities for me personally. Something I really wish I would have gotten involved with is SGA. I think that whole process is super interesting and would have been really cool to be a part of. But I think by the time I really realized that anyone could, work to join SGA, I felt like it was like I was already like too late for me. Like I was too old or too far into my education or whatever. But I think if I could go back, I would definitely look into getting involved with SGA earlier. Megan and Liz?
Yeah, I'll go ahead. So when I was an undergrad, I was involved with athletics. I worked as a student manager for the men's basketball team, and then I was also an intern with the marketing department in athletics. And then outside of athletics, I helped start the sports business club within the business department. I was the vice president for that. But I wish I would have gotten involved in Greek life. Going into college, I went to Eastern Kentucky University to start, and I moved down there with my best friend, and she was very against Greek life, thought it wasn't worth it, and you just paid for friends, and I kind of let her sway my decision. And learning more about it, I wish I would have gotten involved with Greek life.
Similarly to Liz, I wish I would have gotten into Greek life. I was really only into intramurals. I played, I think, co-ed flag football and basketball, which was really fun. But I think that Greek life would have been a different, look at campus life for me, especially as a commuter. It would have really gotten me involved into campus life a lot more.
Awesome. I don't see any other questions on the chat. I don't see anybody waving their hands frantically, so I'm going to assume we're good on questions for now. And I am going to pass it over to Megan. Megan, I think if you just go ahead and share your screen, it'll stop sharing mine. Oh, wait, I stopped it myself.
Can everyone see the screen? Okay, good. So my section is about important campus resources and student services. So why does it matter? The things that we're about to talk about in this section are important because they're part of your tuition. I think a lot of students kind of see their, degree at the end of the 4 years as what they paid for, when really you're paying for so much more. Your education is more than just the grades that you receive. And these resources play a big part in that, which is part of your education. So the resources are part of your education as well, which leads to your further enrichment as a person. Just a note about how we're going to talk about these things. We're going to work with the resources and framework, or the services within the framework of looking at misconceptions, and then a description of each one, and then action steps that you can take as a student. The list is definitely not exhaustive. There, I'm sure, a ton of resources that we could highlight. This is just like a small snapshot of what should be available to students at any college or university. Okay, so this is just like a table of contents for you to see what we're going to talk about briefly. So we've got career services, the tutoring center, study abroad, counseling center, advising, and then activity center. So first, we're going to talk about career services, and that's basically where you prepare for the job that you want. So I'm sure there's several misconceptions, but just a couple that I pulled out are that career services is a center that's essentially just for upperclassmen. There are a lot of different things that can be offered to students of any status. So it's, something to talk about, and we'll talk about that more when we, discuss what they can do for you as a student. And your career path doesn't have to be decided whenever you visit the Career Services Center. That's part of what they do, is to help you determine what you want to do going forward in your education and then after you graduate. So what does a career center do? Again, this is like a small snippet of what we would expect most career centers to do, but one thing is resume building. It's really important to have a strong resume. Of course, once you go through college and then you want to apply to a graduate school, or you want to get into a doctoral program, or you want to just land an entry-level job, you have to have a strong resume. So formatting is really important verbiage that you use on your resume. And then of course your cover letter needs to be strong, as well as your references, and the Career Center can help you to put together that portfolio so you're an appealing prospect. Aptitude tests are things that I would suggest would be really good for lower classmen to use, just because, it's hard for us to expect 18-year-olds to come into college and know exactly what they want to do. So if you're not sure what your strengths are or where you would fit into the world of the workforce, an aptitude test would be a really good place to start, because then you can determine what kind of career would be a best fit for your strengths. Career coaching is a really nice tool that career centers utilize, because it gives you a one-on-one FaceTime to help research the job that you want and determine if it's a best fit, and then how to go about landing that job, because you need tools and connections, and a lot of the times career centers are able to kind of point you in the right direction. And then of course, mock interviews. I think it's safe to say that you wouldn't be able to get a really great job without a strong interview. And I know that interviews are kind of hard to go through, especially whenever you're in high school and you're just maybe working in like retail or something like that. It may not be as strenuous as an interview could be once you graduate and you're looking for your first real job. So practice makes perfect and gainfully employed. And I think that mock interviews are a really great resource for career centers to offer students. So some action steps that you can take as a student is to basically visit the career center that's there on your college or university campus, and just become familiar with their services. You only know what you know. So if you go there and just familiarize yourself, you'll know when you actually need to use the services, and you'll know that it's there and you don't have to do things on your own. And of course, do a deep dive. So whatever you feel like you might want to do, you just need to do the research. And then maybe compare it with the Career Center's research, or talk to a career coach, and then they can give you a little more insight on if you're on the right path, what kind of things you need to do to make your dream a reality. The second resource we're going to talk about is a tutoring center, and that's where you would refine your educational skills. So just some misconceptions is, I don't need tutoring. I'm an A or B student. I don't really have a need for tutoring. Like I said before, your time in college is about more than just getting A's and B's. Your education is broader than that. And I think tutoring can offer you a lot more benefits besides just, your A or B coming back on a test. And we can talk about that more in the next slide. The second misconception is tutoring is for remedial coursework, and tutoring is for more than just, to catch up from high school if maybe you fell behind a bit. I think it can offer broader benefits to all students. So looking at what can the tutoring center do for you, again, this isn't like an exhaustive list, but I would say that most tutoring centers offer a writing lab, which is really important for students since effective written communication can really solidify you in the workforce. People who are looking to hire you are going to expect you to be able to communicate well through Word, and just being able to write a letter, write a resume, write a cover letter. All of those things are important to your development as a student and then a person in the workforce. Of course, the tutoring center should offer multidiscipline coursework for tutoring. So most areas of interest should be represented. So not just, your STEM courses, there should be something for everything, especially within general education categories that all students will have to end up taking. So there should be some kind of tutoring for your arts and humanities, as is STEM, as is English. All of those things are important because you'll all have to take them before you graduate. Online support is something that I would assume most are having to go to, especially during this time. But I think that it's a great tool if you're not able to meet one-on-one with someone, especially now, but at any time, to be able to, have tutoring online through Zoom. It can be really helpful to you because then you can, work through problems and see things, share screen like we're doing now. All of those things are beneficial. And then study groups. So I like to say that this is a good option for someone who maybe isn't failing, but just wants to maybe hone in on a few aspects of the curriculum that they want to just get down, maybe to just become proficient in their area or field. Finding support in your study groups helps you to connect with your peers and of course for you to excel within your courses. So action steps would be to determine potential courses that you'd like additional support. And that doesn't always mean, like I said, to get the A or the B. Sometimes it means just to connect with the students who are going to be in your program that you're going to be studying along with all throughout, the 4 years. And then of course, reach out to the professor to see if tutoring is available because they'll be able to let you know when the office hours are, who the contacts are, that kind of thing. The third little resource we're going to talk about is study abroad. And that's where you would explore the world around you. Some misconceptions are, there's no funding available for those who want to study abroad. And I know that I thought that at least in undergraduate studies, but I wish I would have known that there are a lot of opportunities for those who want to study abroad that maybe it just takes a little bit of time to kind of uncover them. And a second misconception is my field of study doesn't offer study abroad programs. While there may not be a specific course for underwater basket weaving, you can absolutely find something that's cultural art or something of the sort that can tie back into your studies. So you don't have to specify within your actual major. You can cross-discipline study abroad and it would still be beneficial. So why study abroad? Personal growth is a big aspect. I know that WKU Study Abroad department really pushes because cross-cultural experiences help you grow. They challenge you. They make you think about your framework of thinking about things from where you grew up, and they help you to kind of place it up against another culture and kind of see how they view things, and it's an enriching experience. Academic achievement is also another thing for you to note. Gives you deeper connections to your local sphere of influence, again, by comparing it to a global highlight of the way of thinking. It looks great on a resume. People want to see that you're cultured. They want to see that you've experienced things, that you've seen how things are in other corners of the world. And studies show that you're more likely to be hired after graduation if you have study abroad on your resume. And of course, why not? Like, it's not ever going to be easier than this time right now, while you're not tied down, while you're like in your, learning phase, you're able to explore a little more. Take the time to travel now and study while you can. So some action steps is do your research, and determine when you want to work in a trip, because planning now would be really beneficial, as no one is planning to go anywhere anytime soon. Now would be a great time to start working in your plan on when you can work in a few weeks or maybe a semester, because it's an enriching experience, and it can help you overall as a student. Fourth resource is the Counseling Center, and this is where you would fortify your mental wellness. Some misconceptions are, I don't have a need for the Counseling Center, or, counseling can be pretty expensive, for students. Excuse me. You don't really need a diagnosis to need counseling. I think that everyone could have something in their lives that it might just be better, to just talk about with someone else that you maybe don't know. And I think that most counseling centers on colleges and university campuses are willing to kind of make exceptions or make it easier for students to seek counseling, because they realize that not all college students have insurance or, money to cover therapy. So what does a counseling center do? They can continue services. So like if you've had a history of therapy in the past, they can continue that therapy in some sense there on campus while you're away from home, which could definitely be helpful as you, encounter all of these different changes. And with the changes comes stress, and that's what they're there for. They're there to ease the stress, and to kind of reaffirm that you don't have to really struggle through this time alone. Also to offer support. They kind of know what you're going through, and then of course you'll have peers there that will know what you're going through. That'll ease the transition of, growing up by seeking counsel and having someone to talk it out with. And then of course group sessions are for those who just are uncomfortable with the one-on-one aspect. Just being with other people can maybe lessen it up a little bit, make it lighter. So action steps is to identify potential stressors in your life. I know that right now a lot of stressors are probably looking the same on everyone's list, like my online courses. What about housing? I don't know if I'm going to get refunded for my meal plan or something like that. All of those things are probably looking about the same. But if you are able to identify it before you go into the semester, I think you'll be more equipped to deal with it whenever things start to kind of hit their boiling point. And then of course, wherever you attend, just mark the counseling center as a safe space. I'd say that all counseling centers want to be a safe space for students, because it can be hard. It's a hard transition, and they want to just be there for everyone. Our fifth resource is advising, and this is where you build your pathway to success. So some misconceptions, or at least should be, our advisors are hands-off. Advisors are there to tell me what to take. And I realize that maybe those things could be true in some cases, but good advisors are supposed to be collaborative. It should be a high-touch position. You should be able to partner with them to kind of make what you will of your education. That's why they're there. And to tell you what to take is, a positive, to make sure that you get everything checked off, but you're really supposed to be the one to have autonomy over your education, and they're really just there to help you, cross the finish line. So what do advisors do? 4-year plans, I think, are a really great tool. And I like to say, like, they're not like the strong, fast rule, because 4-year plans are maybe less and less heard of as people take a little bit longer to complete their studies. But just, having to juggle general education, your program requirements, and then anything additional that you might take on, like study abroad, it's really important to have a plan going forward to know exactly where everything fits in. So you check everything off. You complete the goals that you want to, lay ahead of you, and you finish. Major changes are also who you'd go through for your advisor. So if you just have, you've met the end of the rope with one discipline, talking with your advisor about how to make the change, what kind of things you need to take in addition to the old courses that you would have to have. That's who you would talk to about that. And they're really good to kind of let you know, okay, well, if you do that, then you have to take this to make sure you accomplish X, Y, Z. You get the point. Appointments. So anytime you have a concern about your schedule or, a course lineup, or maybe something's not offered the next semester, you need a substitution, they should be willing to talk with you about that. And that's why they're there. They're supposed to be there whenever your concerns come up. And then of course, guidance. Your advisor knows the pitfalls of college, and if they're a good one, they'll keep you from them. So that's why I'm going to encourage you to become acquainted with your advisor. Just getting to know them, having their email, dropping by their office whenever it's safe. All of those things will help you to become really in touch with what you have left in your program requirements. It could save you money, save you time, just being with your advisor. Of course, researching your degree pathway is a given. And if you visited the Career Center, you've probably already done that. Okay, so our last one is Activity Center, and this is just to strengthen your wellness. So some misconceptions are, I don't really like the gym. There's not really anything there for me. There's not really much offered on college campus in way of, health services or anything like that. I would say that, just at Western alone, both of those are not really true. There's so many things that are offered to everyone, from like the gym rat to like me, basically. So you can find something for everyone. So what does an activity center offer? You've got the gym, so it's full facilities available for your use. We all know what that looks like. There's also wellness courses that offer like a wide range of variety. So maybe you don't want to hit the machines, but you want to do yoga or you want to do Zumba. That's offered to you probably as well. Holistic wellness. So they're there to just ensure your physical, your emotional, and mental wellness. And that can be in way of offering those classes as like a variety, or even, to just be there to, check in, make sure everything's good, like your normal checkup. All of those things are important. And then of course, intramurals. It's a really popular way to get involved on campus and to connect with your peers through organized sport. So just some action steps is to just check out your institution's facility. That's essentially been the running line for all of the action steps, is to just kind of do your research as a student and look at your schedule and see when you can work in time to kind of participate in some of the events that are offered, because you might be surprised with the things that are and what you enjoy. So all of that to say, utilizing these resources really maximize your time in college, and that's why you're here. You're not here to just get A's and B's or C's, get degrees, even though that's true. Your education is about a broader sense, and all of these resources can kind of highlight those things. Does anyone have any questions?
Megan, I see a question on the chat. It says, can you study abroad as a freshman? If so, what programs would you recommend?
I think that studying abroad as a freshman is a great idea. What I like to suggest to students is, if you know that you have general education that you've not taken, so any kind of like arts and humanities or social behavior sciences, those are really good to take abroad. Or if you have a language that you need to fulfill for your general ed, that's a really good one to take abroad as well. So that's a good opportunity. I would probably say like winter of your freshman year, or maybe the summer after, is a great time to study abroad.
Yeah, I mean, there's short-term study abroad, there's long-term study abroad, there's a semester. Our former president now is in charge of the semester at sea. So there's all types of arrangements out there. And, it really is, my experience has been, it really is up to the student to kind of follow up and investigate. Everything you guys have been saying is true. One of the biggest differences between, high school, I guess, and college, is that in high school, a lot of decisions are made for you. And if your advisor doesn't get you into the right classes, you can blame your advisor, and it's their fault you're not graduating on time. In college, it's a little bit different thing. That's why we keep stressing the collaboration and personal responsibility, and making sure you form that relationship with your academic advisor. And if there are, and Megan is exactly right. There's a lot of funds out there for study abroad. There's a lot of monies that go unused every year because people don't take advantage of the funding and the resources that are available. In some cases, that we don't make the information as transparent as we could, but in some cases, just a matter of sometimes you got to do your own research and kind of figure out, where you want to go, why you want to go there. In the student affairs program, we've had a lot of graduate students be involved in study abroad as support. One of the best ways to learn how to do something is to go on a study abroad experience and be responsible for the logistics and the travel and the transportation and the meals and all this kind of stuff. You also learn how to work with students and faculty. So it's a really good education and it all. And there's short-term types of things. There's things that you don't have to go that far. We even had a study. We have study abroad type of experiences where you simply go to other parts of the United States sometimes, to participate in that. But there is support out there, and there are opportunities to do those types of things.
I'm just going to piggyback a little bit off that as well. I studied abroad, did a summer program, which I felt like was a really great option for me. It was the opportunity to kind of go to a couple different places, see lots of different things, and it didn't really interfere with my or didn't set me behind at all. I know some people worry that studying abroad can set you behind because you might not get the same classes you would get if you were on campus, but especially if you go early, that's going to be a really great option. You're going to have a lot of you're gonna have a lot more flexibility with that, and summer options are awesome. And I would just say to go talk to your study abroad office as soon as is feasible, whether that means setting up a Zoom call with somebody or actually going in person and just asking what are some upcoming opportunities, and then you can really start looking into what your options are.
Yeah, going off of that, Dr. Burke actually mentioned that studying in the US is called study away. And I did a summer internship where I moved to Bismarck, North Dakota, and I worked for a baseball team as an operations manager. And that was a really good opportunity. I met a lot of people that I'm still in contact with today. And it was nice because I drove there. It was a 17-hour drive from where I lived there, but I didn't have to fly. I lived on a college campus, so rent was a good rate. And it was also, I was lucky enough for it to be a paid internship. So there are opportunities out there too. And I got college credit for it as well. So there's a lot of opportunities out there for sure. So I guess I'll go ahead and start my half. Let me share the screen really quick. Sorry, I'm on my iPad, so I'm trying to figure it out. I don't know why. There it goes. Sorry. Okay, there we go. Is it at the beginning? Say dorm life for everybody. All right, sorry about that. So talking about dorm life, just to clarify, I know some places, depending on what college or what university you're going to, it can be called a residence hall. When I went to college, it was called dorms, so that's kind of what I've gotten used to calling it. But to get started, we'll start with what should you pack? So you have to keep in mind space is limited, so you really do need to ask yourself, what do I really need? A good thing to do is, check with your roommates, see what they're planning on bringing. You don't want to have duplicates of things there. You don't want 2 microwaves or 2 coffee makers. You don't have room for all of that. Check with your college to see what's permitted and what's not permitted. Some colleges don't allow coffee makers and some do, just because of the hot plate that they have. And then don't feel like you need to pack everything at once or go out and buy everything at once. Be really wary of like the Bed Bath & Beyond like dorm room checklist. They have a lot of things on there that you probably won't even touch once you get to college. But some key essentials that you will need, you'll need bed linens. Don't forget hangers, hang clothes up in your closet, a laundry basket and laundry detergent. Extra storage bins are really good to have. You can fit those under your bed. The stackable ones were what I used when I was in college, and those were a blessing. Don't forget bath linens, a bathrobe, shower shoes, and a shower caddy for your trips back and forth to the communal bathrooms if you have those. And then one thing that I brought to my freshman year that was really that I really liked was I had a really big area rug for my dorm room, and it was nice not to have to walk across the gross linoleum floors that are often in dorm rooms. Next, we're going to talk about utilizing your space. You're going to be in a small room. These are pictures from my freshman dorm at EKU. So the pictures are pre-iPhone, so they're pretty grainy. So sorry. But you want to work with your roommates to arrange your furniture so that it fits both of your needs. I think this was like the 4th or 5th time my roommate and I rearranged all of our stuff and actually liked it. As you can see in the top right picture, my roommate opted to loft her bed. I personally didn't like it. I just didn't like being up that high. But with her lofting her bed, she had tons of extra room. She stored her laundry basket up underneath of there. She kept a bunch of extra bins and clothes underneath. And then, so we were lucky enough to have beds that you can move yourself. Some colleges don't have that. And if not, and you do want to loft your bed, they make these, they're plastic bed risers. You can get those at Bed Bath & Beyond for like $17.99 for a pack of 4. And they just give you like an extra foot of space to store stuff. Let's see here. If you have a random roommate, rearranging your furniture when you first get there, it gives you a really good time to kind of get to know your roommate, because you have to work together in order to rearrange everything to how you like it. So that's a good way to get to know a new roommate. And then also you want to take the time to decorate your room to how you like it. I mean, you're going to be living there for a year, so make sure you like it. This is my cousin's dorm room when she was at Auburn, and she actually made that shelf that's above her bed. She took 2 old shutters and then painted them and put plywood in between them to make little shelving. And then she's a big Christmas fan, so she decorated for Christmas. And you just want to take the time to make it your own space and make it feel like home. So next we're going to move on to talk about your roommates. So there's 4 golden rules to being a good roommate. Obviously, don't use things that aren't yours. Don't bother people when they're trying to study. I mean, you are in school, you're there to learn, you're there to get an education, but also have fun, so you have to have some ground rules. Be courteous if you're coming in late, and then clean up after yourself. So some roommate survival tips. Like I said, if you're a random roommate, take the time to introduce yourself. If you live in the same city, it might be good to meet up for lunch or something before classes start, before you move in together. This will also give you the time when you meet up, that'll give you the option to coordinate. You might need to make sure, coordinate. Just make sure you don't have duplicates. You might want to coordinate the colors in your room. I know girls are like that, so guys, maybe not so much. Also help each other move in. If one roommate gets there before the other, you can help each other move in, help each other unpack it, situate it. Do things together. Go get lunch together. If you both have meal plans, go get dinner together. And then you also want to get to know the other people on your floor. So, and then set some rules and boundaries. You'll want to establish ground rules. Don't let things build up. If they're doing something that bothers you, just point it out right away. Do it in a respectful manner, but just don't let it build up, because that's not a fun conversation to have. Then also just think about your roommate when you're having, if you're gonna have guests over, be respectful before inviting people over. Double check with your roommate, make sure they're not studying. You'll wanna know their class schedule and their sleep schedule, so that you're not just like barging in the room when they're trying to study, or coming in late if they have an 8 a.m. the next day. So just be respectful of that. And then just keep in mind that you and your roommate, you don't have to be best friends. You're both there to learn, to get an education. So don't be upset, just be respectful of each other. And if it really isn't working out, you can talk to your RA about it if you're having major issues. And if it gets really, really bad, a lot of colleges offer you the chance to switch roommates or move to a different hall if need be. But just give it time, and remember, you're not there. It's okay if you don't become best friends. This is only one person that you're going to meet out of a lot of people on the college campus. So a few dorm room rules and safety. Rule number 1, dorm meetings. Your RAs are going to host mandatory floor meetings. You need to go to these. This is where you're going to learn just general rules, safety practices, and common courtesies for not only your floor, but the whole building as well. And if you don't go to the mandatory meetings, you typically have to go have a meeting one-on-one with your RA, and those aren't usually fun. And there's usually free food and free t-shirts and stuff at these mandatory meetings, so definitely check those out. Rule number 2 is visitors. Be respectful and mindful of visitation hours. When I was at EKU, the visitation hours were during the week, your guest had to be out, I think, by like 10:30 or 11. And then during the weekends, we had 24-hour visitation on the weekends. But we also had to check everybody in and check everybody out. And they had to turn in like their driver's license or a college ID if they were coming into our dorms. So pets, most colleges, they don't allow any kind of pets except for a fish in a tank no bigger than a 10-gallon. And this is actually my fish Milo from my freshman year of college. So he was fun to have around. He only lasted 1 year though. But number 4, there's going to be quiet hours. These quiet hours are to encourage you to study, and your RA will crack down on these hours, especially during finals week. Typical hours are just like what this sign says, 10 to 7 on the weekdays, and then 12 to 7 for the weekends. And then a lot of colleges will have 24-hour quiet hours during finals weeks. So be mindful and respectful of those. And number 5, be aware of fire hazards. Most dorms don't let you have candles, hot plates, or anything with a burner on it. So just be very mindful of those. My sophomore year, I had a candle warmer taken away because I forgot to hide it before a room check, and you don't get those things back. And then just a few general safety tips for school. If you're cooking in the communal kitchen area in your dorm, just be mindful, stay in there, don't leave if you have anything on the stove or in the oven cooking. If you're allowed to have a space heater in your room, just make sure that it's plugged in and it's plugged in and away from like flammable things. My freshman year, our heat went out in the dorm and they allowed us to have small space heaters and they gave us a big rundown and safety precautions on how to use those. A carbon monoxide alarm is an inexpensive thing to add to your dorm. The carbon monoxide is a colorless and odorless gas that can be lethal, so those are good to invest in. And then be aware of any kind of extreme bargain that you find, like some kind of weird job that's like easy money. Those often are a scam. And my cousin got caught up in one of those when she was at Auburn, and she got $1,400 stolen out of her checking account. And there was some lawsuit involved with it. So be very wary of anything that seems easy, like easy money when you first get down there. Follow the instructions on any kind of appliances that you're using. Don't overload your outlets, especially with appliances, because that's a really big fire hazard. Use safe decorative lighting. A lot of the fun little decorative like fairy lights and everything can become a fire hazard. And then some safety products that are good to have when you live on a dorm. The little battery operated alarm systems, I had those when I lived in the dorms. They're cheap. They're like $10 off of Amazon. And they just give you a peace of mind. You operate them with a little clicker to turn them off and on. And then the pepper spray and a small portable emergency alarm. When I lived on the dorms, I had a little pepper spray keychain and I kept on my key rings when I walked around. And then the last thing to have would be a lockbox to secure your laptop, your wallet, cash, passports, and any other valuables. Even if you trust your roommate, these are good to have just because you don't know who they might bring into the dorm and you just don't want to risk anything being taken out of your dorm. And then I know Elizabeth mentioned this, but just COVID updates. It's a really uncertain times right now. So just be in contact with your university housing department to just ensure that you haven't missed any updates and that you are still okay to move on to campus. Anybody have any questions?
Liz, there's a discussion going on in the chat right now about support animals. So if that's something you have questions about or something that you are interested in or like looking into, are some comments about it in this thread that you can read really quickly.
Yeah, there's a lot of information out there about support animals and service animals. You know, service animal, like a seeing eye dog, is the one that everybody always thinks of. That's kind of in one category, and those are pretty much protected by law. Emotional support animals also have some protections, but there's more restrictions on those, and you have to provide sometimes more documentation and all that. But it's definitely, it's very important to some students that they have access to their animals and pets and that kind of thing. And sometimes that will determine, living arrangements. If certain things aren't allowed in the residence halls, I know students have been given exceptions sometimes to live off campus in an apartment because of having a service animal or a emotional support animal too. So that's something if it's important to you, you'll definitely want to look into that and follow up on it, because the policies are a little bit different at every institution. I mentioned in the chat that Matt Davis, who's in charge of the Student Accessibility Resource Center, he can answer any questions about that and what you actually have to provide the university if you want to have a support animal or a service animal in your residence hall room.
Anything else?
Okay, well, I have a few things just to kind of close us out if there are no further questions. If you will look at the chat right now, I'm going to post our mine and Liz and Megan's email addresses into the chat. If you have any questions about anything we've talked today, please feel free to shoot us an email. And if it's not a question we can answer, we'd be happy to refer you to somebody who can, or, you know, do our very best at least to point you into the right direction. So those emails are in the chat now. We can also share these PowerPoint slides if anyone is interested. So if you would like them, we can leave this open for a minute after we end. Just put your email into the chat and we'd be happy to send that to you. But that's all we have. We're really grateful to everybody who tuned in today. Thank you for your thoughtful questions. And I hope that you were able to take a little bit away from this, or at least feel a little bit more prepared to start your freshman year.
Thank you, ladies.
All right, thank
Yeah,
you
thank
guys.
you.
Like I said,
Yeah, thanks.
no
Thank you
problem.
for putting this on. This is good. And so I think a lot of good information there. A lot of good information. I know Elizabeth said this in the chat that I wish I'd had when I was coming in. I was a first generation college student. I didn't have anybody in my family knew anything about college. My parents basically knew I was at college, but they couldn't help me prepare or anything. And so it was all steep learning curve to find out all the stuff you talked about. You either find out through a presentation like this, or you find out through trial and error, or just figuring it out as you go. And I mentioned that earlier. That was a big thing for me. It was, and even years ago in high school, there were so many. You don't realize how many decisions you don't have to make until you're in college, and it's all up to you. You know, decide. Well, you know, my schedule was basically set for me up until I got to college, and then I had some flexibility on whether or not I wanted morning classes or night classes or evening, afternoon, or weekend. Or we didn't have the online option back then, but you know, there's just a million decisions that you have to make, and all the advice you can get, and all this has been really good advice. So again, thanks for putting this on. Appreciate it.
Thanks to all of you for joining us.
And Elizabeth and Liz. Okay. So we. Okay.
I guess we're good to stop recording now. I'll stop the recording.